I was born in March 31st, 1941, in Port Alberni, BC, which is on Vancouver Island.
I was born October 8th, 1990, in White Rock, British Columbia.
So after I finished high school, grade 12, 1959, my dad got me a job at the Tassis sawmill in Port Alberni. Tassis company had a sawmill in Port Alberni, and they needed a carrier driver, a lumber carrier driver. So I was really lucky. Right after high school, I got a lumber carrier job. And that's a pretty important job. You know, you go around picking up the loads on a lumber carrier. I don't know if you're familiar with the carrier, but it picks up the loads and delivers them to the yard where the forklift then piles up the lumber and piles and takes them down. And my job was to pick them up from the sawmill green chain, deliver them to wherever they had to go for 5 years. So I did that for 3 years before I went on to university. And then in 1961, I enrolled at UBC, and I was 21 years old, and I stayed there for 2 years. But I wasn't, that tuned in to being an academic. Like a lot of the guys were graduating when I was just starting. So then BCIT opened up in 1966. So I joined BCIT and I graduated from BCIT with a diploma of business administration. And when I graduated from there, I got interviewed and I got a job up at Tassis. Tassis had a sawmill in Tassis on the west coast of Vancouver Island, huge sawmill. So that's where my sawmilling career started. I got an opportunity to move up and get training, and I started as an assistant production coordinator that coordinates the production of the mill through shipping and sales. Very important learning process for a person to start out with. So I did that job as production coordinator, and then I got transferred to the yard, running the yard and shipping, the physical part of moving lumber around and getting it ready for shipment and all that kind of stuff. And then I moved in and they put me into the planer mill as assistant foreman and then assistant mill foreman. That 5 year term. After 5 years, I decided I wanted to move elsewhere and get more training in the sawmill. So I left that job and moved to Campbell River. And then Campbell River, I got a job with Raven Lumber as the shipping and sales coordinator and did that job for about a year. Then I got a chance to join Talent Timber, who was building a sawmill. So they hired me as their general manager to build and run the mill and all the phases that are involved in running a sawmill. So I really got a good education in sawmilling, production, and logs, and how to process them, how to market them. It was I was very, got those opportunities to do that. So that was really good. So I learned the business, and then after 5 years in Campbell River, I got a chance to go back up to Tassis as superintendent of the mill, and that's one of the largest mills on the coast, and that's the opportunity. So I went back up there. I got hired on as superintendent of the mill, and I did that for 3 years, and then I was promoted to mill manager. Then I became the mill manager for close to 5 years, and then I did that. After that, I decided I wanted to own my own business. I was ready to own my own, saw lumber manufacturing, stuff like that. So in 1986, that was I moved to Nanaimo and started our business. So buying lumber, remanufacturing it, and I knew what to do, and I knew where to sell it, and so that's how I started.
So, when I ran for the BC Green Party in 2017, I was outed as trans in national media, and it started by a miscommunication with the Green Party and Global News, resulting in me my face appearing on television. And I had all these people texting me going, "Hey, I just saw you on TV. That's so cool." And I thought, why would I be on TV? So I looked this up and realized what had happened. And then I put out a Facebook post talking about the dangers of outing a trans person. And fortunately, I'd sort of expected this to happen in some way or another during a political campaign. People dig up dirt on you. So I decided to roll with it. I had something semi-prepared that I'd written so that I could come across as much more reasonable than I maybe felt in the moment of having just been outed. And I put that out, and it really resonated with people. That ended up getting even more media attention, spreading across the country. I started getting messages from England and from Australia. And at that point, I thought, well, I'm out publicly. I might as well become an activist. Because that was really the only thing that I think was holding me back, was the idea of wanting to be able to continue living just this normal life. But the moment you're out, you stop being able to get jobs very easily, and you stop being able to hide who you are from anyone, really. And I wouldn't have run for politics if it really bothered me all that much not being able to do that. But that was sort of the deciding moment of going, well, if I'm out, I might as well run with it.
Sundher Timber Products. Sundher is our name, S-U-N-D-E-R. So our company is named after Sundher Timber Products. And one of the most, great things that I'm proud of doing is opening up the India market. Like, our company is a leader in providing our BC lumber into the India market. We did that about 20 years ago. I'd never been to India. I was born here. I went to India to attend a relative's wedding, and I took 2 weeks, and I noticed, wood being used all over the place, like wood, windows, doors, furniture, all wood, but no Canadian wood, no BC wood. It was all hardwoods, and the main wood they use there is teak, which is very expensive. And they didn't build their houses out of wood, but they did their finishing out of wood. Finishing flooring, cabinet work, and all that kind of stuff made out of wood. So when I came back to Canada, at that time I was a manager of the hemlock mill, just a year before I was going to go, and I started going to all the associations that I knew. Why don't we choose India to try and promote our wood products and develop a new market for our wood? Nobody's interested. So then I approached McMillan Blodell and asked them if they would, support me. And they said, well, look, we don't want to put anybody on our team, but we'll give you an agency agreement. You do the legwork and you do the quarterbacking, and we'll support you. So that's how I started, with their help. And then I kept lobbying the government, kept lobbying the Lumber Association to look at it. And finally, in 2005, 2010, Forced Investment Initiative, which is a Crown corporation owned by the BC government, which goes all over the world promoting our lumber products. So they said, well, look, we're going to look at India. So give us your view. So I made my presentation to them, and they liked it. And then they hired a consultant, international consulting firm, like governments do, to get a study going. And they did a very comprehensive study on India to see if the market exists there for our wood. And it was positive. So then FII opened an office in India, and they hired people there. And now they got 11 people in 3 or 4 cities in India that promote our Canadian wood. So it helps us Canadian companies to get our wood put into that market. So we've got some very high-profile projects that we put our wood into, and so I'm really proud of that. Our company doing that, being one of the leaders in promoting to sell our wood, because our traditional markets, Japan, US, Europe, are shrinking in our traditional markets. And so we need to find new markets. So we're working in India, we're working, opening up China, it's opened up quite a bit, Vietnam, and other South Asian countries, Dubai, the Middle East countries, the South American countries. We're trying to find new markets to replace because Japan used to be our number 2 market after the US, and now they're in third spot. And the Europe has been rebuilt after the Second World, so they don't need as much wood from us anymore. So our company is looking always at new opportunities to sell our wood, and that I'm proud of. That we're assisting.
Well, Tri-Cities Pride was started partly because of my municipal campaign involvement and also my push for a rainbow crosswalk in Coquitlam. When I was pushing for a rainbow crosswalk in Coquitlam, it was really difficult to convince people that this was something that we should move forward with, at least in the way that I thought it should be done. When I had brought the rainbow crosswalk forward, I talked about the Gilbert Baker flag and what it represents. And the Gilbert Baker flag is either a 6 or 8 color flag, and every color has a meaning. The staff at the city had proposed a plan to have it as a 7-color rainbow. And then the mayor of Coquitlam had argued that that should actually be the case, because then instead of making it about queer people, it could be just about diversity in general. And I thought, well, it's kind of strange that you want to try to separate this symbol from queer folks. But he was sort of this mindset that it's a slippery slope, and if you do something for this group, now you're going to have to make a Nazi crosswalk later. And so we had all of these back and forths around this, but when it came to the 7 colors, I sort of hit a wall. And every time I asked counselors and every time I asked staff, they were saying, no, this is what we're moving forward with. And so I then received a call from CKNW saying, would you like to give commentary on how this whole project is coming together? And I said, sure, I'll give you some commentary. And one of the quotes that I said was, if they are to approve this 7-color crosswalk, it would be a slap in the face to the queer community. And the headline that was printed is, Coquitlam's approval of a rainbow crosswalk is a slap in the face to the queer community. And I think almost every counselor stopped talking to me as soon as that article came out. They didn't bother to read the full quote. And that was kind of what sparked a lot of the issues that I had with certain people on council. And it was part of the reason that I wanted to run, because I saw that this seemed kind of like a dysfunctional operation at City Council. And I thought, well, I'd love to add my voice and try to fix this. So I decided to run, and then that also played into the forming of Tri-Cities Pride, which happened sort of between those two things. So I formed the Tri-Cities Pride Society. We put together a board of directors, and then it became a struggle of finding people that had time to commit on a regular basis to actually make things happen. And that's a struggle that I think every society deals with and that we still deal with, but we definitely have a much better team now. We've since then been able to put on various different educational events, fun events, and that's something that we were really wanting to do, but it hasn't grown to the point that I would like it to be at. But also now I'm far too busy to grow it to that point myself as well. So right now I'm still in the position of the president of Tri-Cities Pride, but I've told the folks on Pride that we need to find people for the board that can put in more time, and that I would like to be able to step back from that position and give it to someone else who can really take on that role and run with it, because this organization isn't me. It's just something I started, and I want to see it grow with or without me.
We do have like these Spurling Speaks where you go to school. Can you mind talking a bit about those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't spoken in elementary schools, at least yet. I've talked to teachers about it. I was talking to people about having an assembly at an elementary school right before COVID hit. But with COVID, I don't do my speaking in schools anymore. So what I did instead was I put together a YouTube video that was basically the same presentation that I would have given in a school, and about just trans issues in general. And then I put that out and I said, if you're a teacher and you want to show this in your class, go for it. And I've had teachers doing that instead. And students will they might follow me on social media, or more likely they're going to ask their teacher to ask me a question, which I can then respond to, and the teacher can respond back. But when COVID's not happening, it's a lot of fun. I can go into high schools and I can do multiple classes in a day, just talking about things that affect me, and it allows them to then ask me questions. And because I'm not really afraid to talk about anything, they can ask me whatever they want. They don't have to worry about offending me, and then I can answer them, and I can let them know if what they've asked is, you know, maybe widely viewed as offensive, but I'm not going to take offense to it. I'm not going to respond in that way. I just want to educate them so that they don't have maybe a negative reaction with someone in the future, and also so that they're not necessarily saying offensive things in the future because they have an understanding of what it means to be trans. And then I also will speak at post-secondary schools to typically medical students about the gaps in the healthcare system that trans people experience. Things like trans broken arm syndrome, which is when you would go into a hospital or a doctor's office and talk about an issue. The extreme example being, I have a broken arm, and they would just say, oh, well, the problem's that you're trans. And they'll blame basically everything on you being trans or the medication that you're taking because you're trans, rather than actually trying to solve the issue that you've come in to address. And I know it's not just trans people that face that. People that are obese, for instance, will go in and every problem is blamed on their weight, when a lot of them are not necessarily going to be that problem. And again, it could be a case, a friend of mine had a broken arm recently and had her weight blamed for it. And that was from a car accident. It has nothing to do with that. So those are the kinds of things that I'll educate people around in post-secondary schools.
To work every day. It's a family business. I have two sons that work with me. They wanted a career in doing this. So one is 50 and one is 53. And they run the day-to-day stuff. Like, my job now is more about strategy, planning, how we can improve things and lend my experience to them in our everyday work. So I don't have to go out and search for logs. They do the main everyday work. I don't have to do that anymore. So I find myself in a very good position of lending my experience back into the business, helping it grow, and train my team. And we got a really good team. I have no complaints. I got, my dad and grandfather came here. They worked hard in the industry. They never got a chance that I got, but what they did give me the chance to grow and do things that I wanted to do. And my children, the same thing. Like my grandchildren now have joined the business as well. One is 29 and the other is 22. So I feel blessed, as a matter of fact, to be able to run the business and have my sons and then have grandsons come into the business. And it's going to be a different business. We have to be able to be competitive. We have to know how to run the business differently than when I started. So every year it changes, and every business is like that. There's no such thing as something set up and it lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. But we're going to stay in the sawmill business. There's always going to be a need for lumber. So we're going to try and stay competitive and figure out how we can continue offering lumber products to the world.
There's all sorts of things that have happened basically in the last, I guess, less than 5 years that have resulted in really sort of wild experiences, both in a good and bad way, whether that's being harassed by transphobes and doxxed, or outed in a political campaign, or being threatened to be sued by the world's richest author, or, all of these really strange things. But they also tend to result in really positive experiences as well, because they provide me the exposure that I need to reach the people that can provide me with really positive opportunities. So the job that I'm working in right now is a result of all of that. Because like I mentioned before, I never really was able to get a job after transitioning, at least not through normal methods. I would use my social media presence that I had gained through being outed to basically say, okay, I don't have work. Does anyone know of anything? Rather than sending out resumes, because once people find out I'm trans, I don't get callbacks, I don't get job offers. So the person who I'm working for now found me through my social justice advocacy work, brought me into the company, and now I get to do that for work. And I just designed the trans lesbian flag. I dropped it off for the Vancouver Pride Society's queer time capsule project yesterday. And it's just sort of the snowball effect of all these really neat things that are going on at the same time that I receive all of this hate on a periodic basis. And one of the other things that's presented itself recently is the flag shop said, you can do your artwork for us. And art is something that I've always loved to do. Since I was a kid, I've been doing this very specific style of art, which I still do to this day, but I kind of experiment with how I present that style. So it shifts a lot, and my drawings look very different, but they all follow the same sorts of rules that they did when I was in elementary school. And that's been sort of this cool consistent throughout my life that I've been really excited to experiment with, but I've always just viewed as a sort of a fun hobby. And then last year I started doing a lot of work and people started getting interested in it, and I realized maybe I can actually sell some work. So I've sold a few drawings now, and the flag shop wants to basically take my artwork and wrap their entire building with it, and that's just a really exciting project that I'm excited to see come together. And most of the art is now complete. It's just the process of digitizing it and fixing imperfections so that it can be printed on vinyl and then put on all of the windows and things like that. So yeah, I think I'm just excited, not just about all of the things that have happened, but all of the things that are still to happen.